Hello, and welcome to another Herbal Mana Podcast. I am Todd Bailey, CEO of Herbal Mana, where we help folks to hurt less and live more. Now, we're all about topical sorts of things. We use topical creams, topical gels for chronic pain. That's only part of the picture. As far as taking care of the body, it's a lot more broad than that. Today, we've got a special guest. In fact, I'm impressed and honored. We have Hope Pedraza. And I'm honored because she is deep into this subject matter. She has her own podcast. She's been at it for years. Her content is awesome. Typically, before I have a guest on, I like to go out and consume as much of the material as I possibly can that has been produced. Not possible with Hope. She's been at it for too long. I did not have a chance to count how many podcasts, but you've got a lot of podcasts with some awesome guests.
Yeah.
Really impressive
Yeah,
list.
thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, your background is interesting. The services you're providing are interesting, almost more coach than anything else. How did you get on that path, and who are you working with?
Yeah. So my work basically kind of puts together the science and the energetics, like the science and the spiritual. And that's kind of who I am as a person. I mean, that's what intrigues me the most is putting kind of those two worlds together. I work with mostly women, but I do work with men. I've worked with kids before too. So I work with anyone, but really at the core of my work is putting together that I'm using air quotes here, that root cause equation. And we talk about root cause all the time. And I know for a long time, it was all like going the functional medical route, right? Functional medicine. And we get to the root cause rather than treating symptoms. And that's all great. Now, I'm a functional practitioner, so I can appreciate that perspective. But I am of the belief that there is more to that equation. And it's not just about getting to the root cause of the physical symptoms. And so that's where my work brings in the emotional, energetic, spiritual, mental piece of the equation. And so I'm putting together things like human design and NLP and clinical hypnotherapy and energetics and chakras and Reiki and all the spiritual energetic things to really get to what I believe is the real root cause of chronic symptoms and chronic disease, which is of an emotional, energetic. That's where it starts, the emotional, energetic body.
So unpack that just a little bit. When you're working with somebody and you're helping them with the emotional, energetic side, how does that encounter begin? How do you start finding out what somebody needs, where they're stuck, where they've got these emotions that are trapped? How do you go about that? Because it's a pretty cool process.
Yeah. So it's a kind of multi-layered process. And my work always starts with the functional labs, like for basically like, let's not guess. Let's see exactly what's going wrong in your physical body. And then from there, I bring in the energetics and the emotional piece. And so my favorite tool is human design, one of the things I love to nerd out on. And so I love to incorporate it into my work. And if you're not familiar with human design, the short, like the Cliff Notes here version is human design is essentially your soul's energetic blueprint. And so it puts together some ancient teachings like the chakra system, the I Ching, the astrology, Kabbalah, tree of life, and it puts it together with some more modern day science like quantum mechanics and quantum physics and neuroscience, and it puts it together in this chart. And this, for me, human design is kind of the ultimate like science meets spirituality because there is a lot of science to back it up with neutrinos, these little subatomic particles that affect your DNA. That's like a story. This is a rabbit hole we could go down another day because I could spend hours talking about it. But I love this piece because this for me is really at the core of what is happening in the body because it is your energetic blueprint. It's how you are here to interact with the world around you, how you're here to interact with other people, how you best make decisions, your soul's path, your soul's lessons, like what you're here to learn, where you're here to grow, how your energy moves through your body. So from there, once you understand your energetic blueprint, that's when we can kind of pinpoint, okay, where are the patterns showing up in your body that are causing these physical things? Where are the potential roadblocks of where your emotions and your energy is going to get stored or stagnant or stuck in the body?
But you start all that with the labs. I found that interesting.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
fact, I thought that to
Yes.
have that data
Yeah,
first.
exactly. Yes. And that's the whole reason. Yeah. I want that empirical data so that we don't have to start with guessing. Well, is it your adrenals? Is it your hormones? Is it your gut? Is it your, like, we have the empirical data. And then from there, we can look at your human design and put it together because with human design, there's a lot of overlap there because if your listeners are familiar with the chakra system or the energy centers, whatever word resonates, all of those correspond to different organs in the body, which correspond to different glands that produce specific hormones. So right there already, there's kind of this science meets energy thing. And so that piece also is part of human design. So I can look at a human design chart and look at, okay, your labs are showing there's this and this going on with your adrenals or your gut. Let's look at your human design and see where your energy, like what's happening with your energy that could be causing these things to happen. So we can just kind of correlate to their energetic blueprint.
When you say human design, is somebody going to get to hold a blueprint?
Yeah, so you can
data?
yes, you can go online. There are tons at this point. There are tons of websites out there. You can go online and you just do a Google search, or you can just go to myhumandesign.com. I always recommend that one because I feel like she does the best job of simplifying it, because it's very complex. I mean, you could study this thing for years and years and never get to like the bottom of it. So there's rabbit holes and all kinds of stuff. But if you want just like the basics, if you go to myhumandesign.com, you need your exact birthplace, time, and date, and you just put it in and you get it for free. And you get the kind of the high level concepts that are really the most important to get started. Even if you never go down the gazillions of rabbit holes that you could go down, just getting that high level overview it could change everything for you.
Okay. Does that include the lab part? Or is that something
That's different? Yes. So the labs, so I have 3 foundational labs that I use with my clients. And I like using these specific 3 because I feel like it gathers the most data. Functional labs, I'm sure you've talked about this plenty of times on your show, but functional labs are going to look at things a little bit differently than conventional labs. I mean, you can go to your doctor and get a blood lab, and I'm not opposed to blood labs, but I think that when you're only looking at blood labs, you're missing a lot. And when we can look at functional labs, we can get a deeper, more comprehensive look at what's going on in the body. So the 3 foundational labs I use are at HTMA, which is a hair, tissue, and mineral analysis. You're literally sitting in some of your hair. And this is my favorite one. This is another thing I love to nerd out on. I've done hundreds of hours of studying and have certifications in advanced mineral analysis and all the things. So I love this part because I feel like it's so overlooked and undervalued and underestimated and just misunderstood, maybe just not understood at all, how minerals actually function in the body and how this is at the core of everything that's going on in the body. So there's the mineral analysis. I also do a GI map, which is a poop test. So it's a really in-depth look at your gut. And then I do a Dutch test, which is a dried urine test. You just pee on some paper, and it's really a really comprehensive look at your hormones. And like I said, I mean, all of these things, you could go to a blood lab and you could go to your doctor and ask for a blood lab for all of these things, but it's going to be a much different look at what's going on. And especially with the minerals. I mean, this is another thing I could talk about for the next 5 days is minerals, if I sat here and talked to you about it, because it's such a different, looking at it from a hair tissue and mineral analysis from the actual lab that I do is such a different look at looking at blood labs for your minerals. And it's a much more accurate look. It's a look at what's going on chronically over time, which is going to give you a better picture of what's happening in the body. So you're just getting better data.
And that was interesting because it does show such accurate data, long period of time, and you can't fudge.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Whatever shows up in the hair test, it's the real McCoy.
That's it. Yeah.
No fudging that.
That's right. Right. And that's kind of my thing with blood labs. Like I said, and I look at my clients' blood labs all the time, to kind of put that together with the lab work that I do. But the blood lab is just a picture of a blip in time. It's like what's going on right now. I could take the same lab tomorrow and it could say something else. So, I mean, if you really want to, again, that comprehensive look at what's going on in the body, it's just, you want more than just a lab, a blood.
You're doing a lot of energy stuff. So why the labs?
Well, I find that the most people coming to me aren't like coming to me saying, maybe some might, saying like, I want you to fix my limiting belief about my worth. I want you to fix my limiting belief about, like, they're not coming to me about that. They're coming to, they're like, dude, fix my hormones. Like something's going on with my body. I got no energy. Yes, exactly. The physical symptoms are the signs they're coming to me for, because that's what's affecting our day-to-day life. Now, most people on a conscious level aren't thinking about, it's these thought patterns and these limiting beliefs that are causing these physical things, because we're not always aware of that. And we're not always putting those pieces together. Humans, like we want to feel good. We want to feel good in our physical body. So they're coming to me. People are coming to me because they're like, just tell me how to fix XYZ and on my body. Like, I don't want to feel this symptom. I don't have energy. I can't sleep, whatever it is. And so the lab, like I said, with the labs, we don't have to guess. I don't have to wonder what part of the body is malfunctioning, where the imbalances are in the body. I can look at the data, I can look at the labs. Here's exactly what's going on. Now that we have a picture of what's going on, we can put the energetics and all these other pieces to find out why the physical body, these things are showing up on the physical body.
Yeah, there's definitely a direct connection. My wife used to get after me for that. I was really dragging my feet. This is back 07, 08. My world crashed. Everything crashed. Financially crashed. Everything. And she was trying to work with me through the energy thing. She's very in touch, very intuitive. She's trained. And I'm a guy. And I'm kind of thick-headed. Finally, she pushed me to work with somebody in Salt Lake City, a guy named Kirk Duncan, who does energy kind of counseling for business folks, especially thick-headed ones like me, because it was coming from him and not from my wife. He was saying the same things. By golly, things started to get fixed. I couldn't get ahead with supplementation. I couldn't get ahead with meds. I couldn't get ahead with going to the gym. There was something else, that X factor. And it turned out to be a lot of the energy garbage I was dealing with, a lot of the crap that I was carrying with me everywhere I went. So we'd get a little progress and then I'd slide back, a little progress and I'd slide back. And it was perplexing, really perplexing because I'm a guy. In fact, right outside my door, I've got a picture. It's like this big John Wayne. I grew up on John Wayne movies. And you're supposed to be able to cowboy up.
That's it. Yep.
And just push
That's
through.
right.
Always the best course of action.
No, not at all. I mean, the pushing through is what is leading to so much chronic disease in bodies. So that's it. And your story is so common because I've worked with so many, like I said, I work with mostly women, but I've worked with men too, but I've worked with so many women and people that have had that story where I've been to I've gone the conventional route. I've even done work with functional practitioners and holistic this and holistic that, alternative this, alternative that. But either the symptoms always come back or it comes back and it shows up as something else. And it's that energetic piece you're talking about. That's the piece that's missing. Like you still have these underlying things going on under the surface. So of course your supplements aren't going to fix, like quote unquote, fix everything because you really haven't gotten to the root cause.
Right. You work with women. Do you run into women with fibromyalgia?
I have had a couple with fibromyalgia. It's been a while, but I am familiar. Yes.
Oh, that's one we deal with. We've got a topical for that. But most of the problem turns out to be emotional. If you can't unpack the emotion, then we can put the topicals on. We have some awesome stuff, awesome formulations.
I believe it.
And they make a huge difference, but it doesn't fix it.
That's right. It's in conjunction with. I mean, you got to do both.
Right. So when somebody starts to work with you, you get the tests, get the labs, clip the hair, then what?
So then we start putting the puzzle together. I love puzzles, and that's essentially what we're doing. We're putting the puzzle together. So we're looking at the physical pieces, and we're putting those pieces together with kind of correlating with physical symptoms, your symptomology. Okay, let's put these pieces together. And we're looking at your human design and seeing how your energy is flowing and where the energetic kind of roadblocks are. So, and then we start doing the work, right? Quote, the work. And that's when we're getting into when we talk about human design, there's what's called the deconditioning process, which this isn't like only to human design, but we talk about it a lot in the world of human design. And the deconditioning process is essentially kind of excavating in your emotional, energetic being of what's yours and what's not. Meaning, who am I at a soul level? My beliefs, my thoughts, my values, my opinions, all that, versus what have I been told are my beliefs, values, opinions, etc. And so there's this deconditioning process that has to happen to really get to the core of these subconscious programming, that's happening in our nervous system that's running the show. And so this, and the deconditioning, I say this without judgment because we get this honestly, right? It's through generations, it's through society, it's through culture, it's through your family, all these things happen. And we just kind of lose, I don't want to say so, but we kind of lose a sense of who we are at that soul level. And we start to meet resistance with who we really are at that soul level. And really that's what causes dis-ease in the body. It's kind of that tug of war, that push-pull of who we think we're supposed to be versus who we really are, right? And so the deconditioning process is what starts to unravel the subconscious programming and the patterns that are causing these physical things to show up on the body. And so that's where the real work happens. And like you said, it's kind of this like 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation. It's never a linear path, right? It's never like, oh, that's just straight up trajectory and we're just going to reach the top. It's a push pull because there's layers to this and you peel back 2 layers and all this junk comes out and okay, we fix that one. But then there's more layers that have to come undone. So it's a process, it's a journey. But as you go through this process and this journey, your physical body starts to reap the benefits because now we're allowing that life force energy to flow back on the body to bring balance. I mean, our body was designed to be in balance. The body was designed for homeostasis. Our body wants to be in balance. And so it's just removing those layers that are kind of just blockading that life force energy to flow through so that it can be in balance.
A few of the tools. If I'm going through deconditioning, what are a few of the exercises you might give me?
Yeah. So I use a handful of modalities. So the sessions that I use, I call them quantum healing sessions. And so in a session, we're going to use multiple modalities. We might use NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is using all your senses to help reprogram, rewire the brain and kind of unpack limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, subconscious beliefs about yourself, life, etc. So we're using things like NLP. We might use hypnotherapy. We might using a lot of imagery. We're using things like Reiki and energy healing. And really the process is getting into the subconscious mind having a conversation and seeing what's ready to be released. That's really, I mean, that's in simplest terms, that's what it is. And so I'll walk my clients through various practices to get there, because the first step is always to be able to provide this environment of safety so the body feels safe releasing these things. And then, like I said before, it's, to me, it's like this excavation process. It's just kind of digging. I just always envision like people who dig for like dinosaur fossils. It's like we're going into the body and we're seeing what's ready to be released and what's ready to be let go of. And little by little, we chip away at these things that are programming the subconscious that aren't serving us anymore. And that's what the sessions are for.
If we're having a session, do I need to be in person in San Antonio,
No,
Texas?
you don't. My practice is all virtual. I very rarely have anyone. Well, I have had a handful of clients that are local. I mean, I have clients all over the country and Europe and Canada and Alaska and Mexico. And like, I've had clients everywhere. So no, it's all virtual, which is the great thing about the internet, right? And it's also the really cool thing about energy, because energy does not know time or space. So everything that we're doing doesn't require you to be here in person to do anything.
Through this with a practitioner a while back. I was kind of stuck. And I was working with her. She was awesome. We did something, she was calling it hypnosis. It was more suggestive kind of things. It was really helpful for me. What was interesting is she's a family friend. She lives 2 miles from me, but she thought it would be more productive to be separate, not in the same room, while we work through the process, because she has done this for so long with so many clients. And she's found that separation is helpful, not distracting. I can focus more on myself, look inside myself while I'm being coached and guided. I found that was off-putting at first until we actually had a session. And by golly, she was right.
I love that.
Very productive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's true. And then you're not having to, well, I think the other thing too, sometimes, we can be so sensitive to other people's energies that it might be a hindrance or distraction, or there might be resistance there. So yeah, I love that perspective from her.
I thought that was great. Now, you mentioned NLP. Most folks aren't going to know what NLP is.
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And so it's essentially just using imagery and all of your senses to reprogram, rewire the brain. And so, like, for example, if I'm in a session and I'm asking a client to, they're finding where in the body there's an emotion that's ready to be released. So when they're finding this emotion in the body, we're talking about the shape and the texture and the color and the feeling. We're bringing up all of this is to create images in the mind, so to use all of our senses. And that's where the rewiring happens. It's just rewiring those neural pathways for us to have this vivid imagery of what it is we're talking about and what's ready to be released. And that's where the rewiring happens. And it's really, it sounds so, like, explaining it sounds so simplistic, I feel like, or seems so, I don't know. But when you're in it and you're saying that you're having those subconscious conversations with that friend of yours, when you're in the hypnotic state, that's how your brain responds. That your brain responds and thinks in images. That's how the rewiring happens. And so we have to be able to bring that imagery up in the mind for it to be able to rewire. That's how your subconscious sees things. It's through images, through feelings, and through that the senses, the smell, the taste, the sound, the texture, all of those things. We want to be able to bring up all of those things in when you're in that suggestive state and that kind of hypnotic state for us to be able to rewire the brain.
And that helps us release the emotion doing that work.
That's it. Yes. Because here's the thing with emotions. An emotion, what is an emotion? Emotion is energy, right? Energy and motion. That's what an emotion is. And this is the thing when I have conversations about people where they're a little resistant or reluctant or think this is woo-woo, wacky, whatever. The fact is, science proves that. Like, we know that everything is energy. That is a scientific fact. And there are a lot of studies to back this up. So we know everything is energy. The table, the chair, your body, everything is energy. And emotions are just energy and motions. And when you feel an emotion in your body, it's a chemical reaction in the body. There's neurotransmitters and hormones doing specific things when you have that emotional reaction. The actual process of feeling an emotion only lasts like 90 seconds. Like the length of that is like 90 seconds. After that, if we're still feeling an emotion, it's because we've attached a story to it. Our subconscious has attached a story about that emotion. And so being mad 3 weeks later being mad about something that happened 3 weeks ago, it's not that you're still in that emotional situation. It's that you've attached a story to it and now it's stuck in your subconscious. And so for us to get in there and get it out, and the process I just talked about, that's what we have to do. We have to get into this state, the hypnotic state, which is slowing down your brain waves to be able to have a conversation with your subconscious to find it, to pull it out, and to feel and to basically continue that emotional process, allow ourselves to feel that emotion, allow ourselves to transmute it and to allow it to release. And that's all emotions want to do. Emotions are, like I said, energy and motion. They are meant to move. And it's when we either suppress it, repress it, we stop the emotional process, or we attach a story to it, is when it becomes stuck in our bodies. And this is when it starts to cause dis-ease in the body.
I was reading a study a while back on neuroplasticity.
Mm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
similar.
This is it. It's the same concept.
In this case, they were looking at folks with back issues, post-surgical. Everything was corrected. Therapy went well. No underlying cause for continuing pain. And despite medical interventions, they couldn't clear up the pain for all of these test subjects. Instead, they gave them mental exercises.
Mm-hmm.
What they were supposed to do is sit quietly, find that pain in their body, focus on the pain. What color is it? What's the shape? What's the texture? And as you focus on it and kind of unravel it, that pain, which is trapped, but shouldn't be there physiologically, should not be manifesting, it will dissipate. And given practice, you can make it dissipate and stay away, which is pretty awesome. Just like what you're talking about with the emotions. I just bring that up because for guys, they might need to look up a study and say,
no, for sure. The analytical
verified
minds.
scientific study.
Yes. No, I love that.
From people with heart lab
Yeah,
coats.
that's it. Well, the analytical minds wanted to see the proof, and I totally get it. And I love that you brought that study up. And there are tons of studies. If your listeners aren't familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, go look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he has dedicated his life to this research. I've read every single one of his books multiple times. I've been to a workshop. He is putting the science to all of this that we're talking about. And that's what it is. I mean, because really, I tell my clients, when we're talking about emotions, it's like a petulant child that just wants your attention. If you can just bring your attention there and just let it be and let it move and feel it, that's all it needs. It just needs your attention. But yeah, the neuroplasticity thing that's exactly what we're talking about. And there is a lot of science to back up how that works and how that rewiring process works. Yeah.
Yep. Now, in addition to all of this, you've got Pilates going on?
I do.
What is that?
Yes. So I have a brick and mortar Pilates studio franchise. We have a couple locations here. So that's kind of how my journey got started, was Pilates. I started this year, I was actually thought about this I think it was last month. This year, I think will mark 21 years that I've been teaching Pilates. I started teaching when I was in college. And so I've been teaching a long time. And I got into it because my background is in dance. I danced for 20 plus years. And I got into Pilates there. It's kind of everything I do really is all about function and longevity. And that's what Pilates is. It's something, I feel like it's one of those timeless exercises that you can do until you die. And it, keeps the body functional. And it's for every body and every level and every gender and every, it's for everybody really. And so, yeah, Pilates is one of those things that I think will always be my first love, because that's what got me started into all of the health wellness things. But yeah, I love it.
And you teach still? You still have time for that?
I do. Yes. Yeah. I don't teach a whole lot, but I do. Yeah. I do have some private clients that I've had since I began. I stopped taking private clients a while back, but I have a few that have left that have been with me from the beginning. And then I teach a couple classes a week, not a lot, but just enough to kind of quench my hunger for it, because I still love it and I do love to teach. But yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
That's great. Outstanding. Yeah. You work with a lot of women. You mentioned that. Why women? Why that crowd?
Yeah, well, I think it just kind of naturally happened that way. So when I started my studio, most people see Pilates as a woman's, I'm using quotes here, a woman's workout, even though it was created by a man and it was created for men. It was actually created for war.
Seeing those old videos.
Yeah. For those who are injured in war. But people, just the way that it ended up here in America, people just see it as a women's workout. So I think just by default is kind of how I started working with women. But I really do enjoy working with women, because when I first started, I had my studio and I was just doing basic nutrition coaching. I was just like a basic nutrition coach. And I just wanted to have this comprehensive, holistic space where you come to the studio and get everything you need, right? We've got your workouts, we've got your mindfulness stuff, we had yoga and meditation and all those things too. You can get your nutrition support. But as women were coming in and working with me, they're all pretty much coming to me for the same thing. I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to lose 15 pounds. It was all that kind of stuff. And so when I'm working with them, I'm recognizing that the conversations required to help these women really needed to go deeper than talking about calories and macros. And it really needed to be deeper conversations about, their gut and their hormones and their thyroid and their stored trauma and all these things. So that's what led me down the path. And then recognizing that these women who wanted to be 10 pounds lighter, or, I want to tone up, or like there really were deeper desires under the surface there. And I wanted to be able to help really pull those things out and really help them at that deep level. And so that's kind of what drew me into the world of becoming a functional practitioner and then doing all the energetic work, just wanting to be able to help those women at a deeper level.
I think that's a good crowd to serve because I think they're underserved.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think they have a lot of unique pressures for success. Yes. They're supposed to be strong, charging forward, but still soft and nurturing.
That's it.
Got this tug of war, these expectations. And I find a lot of successful women entrepreneurs don't feel like they have peers that they can open up to.
Yeah, that's so true.
I thought that was a guy thing. It's not just a guy
thing. It's not, yeah.
We start to internalize our struggles. We internalize the worries, the stress, the concerns. And that's not healthy.
That's right.
Got to have somebody to be able to open up to, like a coach that can help unpack all of that. So I think that is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything. Yeah, it is.
You've got a podcast, a very successful podcast.
I do have a podcast.
How did that come about? I mean, it looks like you've been at it maybe 5 years.
I think I started in the pandemic. Yeah, there was like a little bit of a gap when I was trying. Well, I think I started during the pandemic, and then there was some time in there where there was a gap because I was like trying to keep my brick and mortar business afloat for dear life. And so there was a gap, a little bit of a gap, but I've been doing it for a while. And I think I have like 280 something episodes on there. So I've got a lot of episodes, a lot of really great guests. I have a lot of solo episodes. And honestly, it started, I think I've only been asked this a couple times, but when I tell it, I laugh because it's funny because it was just something my husband was like, you have a lot of stuff to teach about. You should do a podcast. You have a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, do I? And so I did. And so here we are. So yeah, it was kind of inspired by him. He was like, you have a lot to talk about. You should do a podcast.
Well, the topics are great.
Thank you.
I know some of them are kind of woo-woo, some are energetic, some of it's Reiki,
all across the board.
Some of it's hardcore, deep nutrition.
Yeah.
Interesting topics. And a pretty good array of guests. Pretty impressive. Normally, I try to consume all of my guests' content before they come on my show. No, that was not possible. Not with 250 or whatever episodes.
Take you a while. Yeah, but there are some good ones. There's a lot. I've had a lot of really great guests. So yeah.
Yeah, the most recent one I did listen to is glutathione. And
Dr.
a lot of folks don't understand
yes.
how it is so important to the body and so lacking in our food supply. I think that's part of the reason I really like that you're doing the hair test, the mineral test, some of the lab work, because even if we're eating healthy, it's a struggle.
There's still gaps.
I did a little test recently. I went to a local Albertsons. I bought this little package of these cute tomatoes. I love tomatoes. Bright colors, quite a variety. Brought them home, left in the package, put them on the counter. And on Sunday, would have been 5 weeks, they were finally getting just a little wrinkle. But they hadn't started to break down yet. They were just drying out slightly.
Crazy.
That's kind of a sad thing in our food. And those are supposed to be organic little guys. Right. But unfortunately, to make them shelf stable, we've bred the enzymes, the nutrition, the flavor right out of it. It's one of the reasons those winter fruits and vegetables can stay on the shelf for so darn long. There's no enzyme, no content.
That's it.
So we can eat those tomatoes and get essentially nothing out of the tomatoes.
Right. Oh.
Which is kind of sad.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge, and I'm always food first, before supplements. And I know, most practitioners would agree, but the fact is that, I mean, you're right. Our foods, I mean, you can look at the studies. For the analytical minds out there, you can go look at the studies that show the nutrient density of, from the 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s. So it's much different than it is today. And that's, I mean, there's just a lot of holes that we have to fill from, just nutrients lacking in our food and soil, food. Yeah.
We've bred to make things pretty and shelf stable. It's kind of a Costco effect. Costco's only going to buy apples if they look beautiful, perfect, shelf stable.
Yeah, exactly.
That means we need to breed for shelf stability. We're not breeding for nutrient density.
Yep.
Apples are kind of interesting. If you go back, like you were saying, in the 50s, back then apples were about 20% sugar. Now they're about 80, 85% sugar. They're awesome. I love Honeycrisp. They're sugar bomb. I'm not really getting out of them. They're just, they're a treat.
Right. It's so true.
But as far as nutritional density, Not a lot going on.
Yep. Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot of foods are, you can look at the corn too, from like ancient grains of corn that were predominantly protein and now it's like all starch. I mean, there's a lot of foods that have just been, yeah, it's crazy.
We've done it. Every one of the crops, wheat's right up there.
Yep.
Wheat's become really
Right.
problematic. Even digesting wheat for a lot of
Yeah.
folks
Yep.
is
Yep.
problematic.
For sure.
What we're eating today is not what our grandparents
Mm-hmm.
ate, not even what I ate as a kid.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
So do you come up with nutrition plans? Do you help your folks through that? Do you coach them through that
Yeah,
side?
yes. The kind of the protocol, what the protocol looks like, there's a protocol for the physical body. Like we're going to address what's on the labs and it just kind of goes along with in conjunction with, the energetic work and subconscious work that we're doing. So the protocol is always going to be, nutrition, supplementation, detox, lifestyle. It's going to be all of those things. And so all of that will address what I see on the labs and what's going on in the labs for sure.
Okay. How does somebody interact or connect that first time with you?
Yeah.
How do they find you? How do they connect? How does it kick
Yeah.
off?
So you can check out my website. My website is hopefulandwholesome.com, the same name as my podcast. You can find me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram at the Hope Pedraza. I get a lot of my clients from Instagram. So you can shoot me a message there for my podcast
Really?
or they email me from my podcast. Yeah, essentially just a consult is always the first step. I call it a functional assessment and just to see what's going on, like what's going on in your body, what's going on in your life, and what's the best plan of action. And there's lots of different options. Do you want to do all the labs? Do you want to just do the hair analysis? Do you want just the energetic work? Like there's lots of options. But yeah, just reaching out and setting up that first consult to see what would support you best is the best first step.
I think that's awesome. And the content is pretty cool. The Instagram content, I love that.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to take weeks, maybe months to catch up on the podcast,
Yeah.
but good content.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
useful, clickable content, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I try to make it tangible, right? Leave away with something tangible. So I also like to provide some extra things. Like I did a series at the end of last year, kind of getting ready for 2025. And that had like workbooks and journal stuff and worksheets and PDF and little resources. And, I like to do extra stuff too, I want it to just be a library, just a resource for you to learn and feel empowered and maybe, have some perspective shifts and think about things differently. So that's what it's for.
I suppose you charge for all of this. What do you say to folks who say, "Oh, it's too expensive. I can't spend on that."
Right. It's cliche, what the answer that's coming into my head. But the fact is, we got one body, right? That's the fact. The fact is we got one body. And, I work with a lot of high performers, high achieving women, entrepreneurs. And my answer to them is always your business will only ever be as strong as your body. We have this vessel and your vessel is going to build your business. If your vessel is deteriorating, then your business eventually is going to be deteriorating too. And it's the same with anything. You don't have to have a business for that to apply. I mean, your wellness, your well-being affects every aspect of your life, your relationships, your family, your career, your purpose. Like it affects everything. And in order for you to live a fulfilling, joy-filled life requires a vessel that's functioning optimally. And that's your health is all you have. And I know that's cliche and it sounds whatever, but
it's cliche until you don't have it.
That's it.
Then it becomes very
That's
real. Also, as
exactly
far as the cost, I can spend some to stay well, or I can spend a lot to be sick.
That's it.
And being sick is expensive.
It is.
In so many
Right.
emotionally, financially,
Right. All of it.
spiritually. It's just draining.
That's it. And I think people underestimate the other aspects besides the financial piece of it. Because I've worked with, when I first started out, I had so many clients with like really complex things, like autoimmune things, really complex things. And they had been to, the list of doctors they had been to was ridiculous. And so the mental and emotional toil that takes on someone, I really think we underestimate that. Like we think about, okay, the money, blah, blah, blah. For my clients that have come to me, it was worth that mental emotional piece being taken off their plate. Like I'll give you however many thousands of dollars. I've had clients spend a ton of money with me because they're like, I don't care how much it is. I just want you to help me. I want somebody to listen and I want to take this mental emotional burden off of me. So I really do think we underestimate that piece. And it's like you said, I mean, you either spend money on your health or you spend money being sick, and it is expensive to be sick. And then you lose that quality of life. I mean, that's what it's about. It's the, we talk about lifespan versus health span. Well, do you want to invest in your health span? And nobody wants to live to 100 but feel crappy the whole way. Like, can we have longevity and talk about health span, and let's invest in that?
I like that. It's a lot more of the conversation nationally these
Mhm.
days. It's been interesting seeing Mr. Kennedy
Mhm.
involved. Interesting sort of fellow. I actually love what's going on. I really do. I don't know how much progress he's going to make on the pharmaceutical
Yeah.
front, but I really hope that he'll continue to make progress on the food front,
Hopefully.
getting proper
Yeah.
labeling, proper disclosures, maybe getting some of the garbage out of the food supply,
Hopefully.
just so that we've got a better base to
Right.
work from. It's a little rough when you go to the grocery store and you find that 90% of the store really ought to be off limits.
Right.
It's boxes, bags, and barcodes. And we've got to stay
Mhm.
away from that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is pretty limiting.
Yeah, it is.
I find that if I go to my store, I've got one just a couple hundred yards from here. When I go to shop, I'm spending 99% of the time on the fringe. Meat, dairy, produce, eggs. I don't go to the middle
Mhm.
much, except maybe spices and some
Right.
avocado oil.
Right. Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
afford to have anything else out of the middle. It's too impactful in the wrong
Right.
way.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's well worth it to spend on
Mhm.
maintenance and wellness and
Yeah.
wholeness rather than trying to deal with
That's
sickness.
it. Yeah. That's it.
It's hard.
Mhm.
We just came through a bout of, we got the tail end of a nasty flu thing, knocked me out for 5 days. Kind of a
Yeah.
reminder of what it is. Well, it's not that big a deal, but it's a nice reminder that I don't want to be chronically
Yes.
down.
Yes.
I don't want to go through that on a chronic basis. It sucks to go through it for 5
Yep.
days. And if I can prevent something, if I can prevent some of those long-term catastrophic issues, I really ought to be on top of it. Spend the time, make the effort, engage with a
Yeah.
coach, somebody like Hope.
Yeah.
I think it makes a
It
huge
does,
difference.
for sure.
And then the energy side is huge. My crowd is the chronic pain crowd. We're helping folks with topicals and things. But if they can't deal with the emotional side, then that pain becomes more permanent and often is perceived as suffering, more than just pain, more of a deep rooted suffering, part of that story that we tell ourselves, tell our body, tell that part that's being hurt, and it becomes quite stuck,
Yeah.
chronically stuck. And then our wonderful creams and such help, but don't really solve everything. Got to do the inside out work.
It's got to be a holistic process.
Yeah. Well, I could go on listening to you all day, like I did all morning, getting ready for this. Holy cow. This is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Real pleasure to have you on the
Thank
podcast.
you. Thanks so
I'm
much.
honored to have somebody like you
Thank
doing some pretty awesome
Thank
work. I
you.
love it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, if you want to engage, we're going to have show notes down below, how to find Hope, how to find her on the website, the podcast. You ought to spend time with the podcast. By the way, if you guys are going to the gym or driving around town or taking a road trip and just listening to the radio, you can do better. You can do much better. The Hopeful and Wholesome.
Yep, that's it.
All right, make sure we get it right. Awesome. Hope, I really appreciate having you on. This is
Thank
awesome.
you, Todd.
And we might have to do this
Yeah,
again.
I'm ready.
All right.